I always. Oh, okay.
Sorry. I hit it, and then you're like,
There you go. That's okay. What a great way to start. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, a fabulous Sunday edition of GeekVerse podcast. I am the desk jockey, Kirklin Patzer, and I'm joined with.
I'm the pool boy, Taylor Field.
Yes, this is a very, very special, just fun review for day shift. Like I said, it's just the day or Sunday morning, just the two of us. Should have been Saturday morning, but that's a story.
We're doing the day
time,
shift
maybe.
right now.
We are on the day shift right now. Yes, very, very excited to jump in this one. As usual, we're going to do a non-spoiler and then lead into a spoiler discussion about what we thought about the film and breaking up all that good stuff. But before that, we got some housekeeping to go over. We actually just finished recording our After 9 episode. That was tons of fun. Those are our monthly. I think we do them monthly. Sometimes we do them a little bit less, like less than a month. But life gets busy, but we try and aim those once a month. Very, very fun. If you are tier 2 Patreon or up, you can join. Just discuss pretty much anything. This one, we were talking about our weekend plans. Travis had some false accusations that I was a fraud. So if you want to know all about that, definitely go check out that. As I mentioned, on Patreon. You can support us on Patreon. That's where you get all of our content ad-free. Early exclusive content too. There's a lot of things that go on there early. There's also some things that go on there that are exclusively for the Patreons. So that's a great way to not only just get all that great content ad free, but also just support us and allow us to put out even more content than what we're doing already. Big shout out to our Patreon producers. That's at the highest tier. We got Aaron Braden, April of Darkness, Smiley Biggs, Joshua Wright. We just recently covered Fantastic Mr. Foxx. I can't believe I actually got that right. I normally always say Mr. Fantastic, but we did that. We reviewed that movie. And, obviously go check out that episode for all of our thoughts. But we all really, really enjoyed that one. So big shout out to you, Joshua Wright, sir, for giving us a non-Colorado Space quality movie that we could actually enjoy and had a lot of fun discussing. Not saying the Colorado Space one wasn't a fun discussion, but the quality of the movie, I think we all enjoyed our time a little bit more on this go around. Go check it out on Manscaped too. You can support us, get 20% off on there, but we'll discuss a little bit more about that later on. So, yeah, without further ado, I guess I can throw it to you, Taylor, for the classic. Where can they find us on everything that I haven't already said?
Well, yeah, you should have the Patreon. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the internet connection to search bar. Find us on our home base, GeekVerse. God, I threw myself off.
You did too. I think it's because I said like everywhere but Patreon. And normally you bring up the Patreon. So I think I kind of threw a stone in your path there. I apologize.
GeekVersePodcast.ca, or no, sorry, GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast our Twitter. GeekVerse on our Facebook. Yes, back in it. There we go.
That's perfect. It's also Sunday, Sunday morning. It's a weird occasion, but yeah. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. Day Shift. If you didn't already know, this is the Netflix movie starring Jamie Foxx, Dave Franco. Those are Snoop Dogg, of course. Can't forget the iconic Snoop Dogg. So. Yeah, Taylor Field, I'll throw it to you first. What was like your excitement level going into this? And yeah, just quick overall thoughts about what this one did for you.
I had a relatively high excitement level. I'm always down for a vamp adventure, and this did not disappoint. Just knowing that we got Jamie Foxx and Snoop Dogg in here, like I feel like a lot of things Snoop Dogg is in, like he has his like signature kind of like moments, stuff like that. But like in terms of acting, he's really good in this movie. Like he doesn't have a lot of screen time, but like the moments he acted and delivered, like I thought, holy crap, like he's fantastic. I love it. Aside from always appearing in Call of Duty, it's nice to see him, making an appearance in a film like this. But it was great. I thought a lot of the humor really, really, really worked for me. I was laughing lots, and a lot of the we talked about it in After 9, but the movements of certain characters was like freaking me out and just like creepy. But I absolutely loved seeing where the story kind of took us. It was great, and well, that's more like a spoiler, but overall, I enjoyed it. It's great.
Yeah. Absolutely. I like how you brought up the Snoop Dogg isms because it's totally like certain check boxes that they have to hit when Snoop Dogg's appearing. It probably just goes into like the discussions for when he signs onto the project. Because yeah, like if you took a different character and put him in the same role of what Snoop Dogg was, I guarantee you we wouldn't have gotten like not really a spoiler, but if you have Snoop Dogg in a movie, he's gonna be smoking marijuana, and that's exactly what happened at one point, right? And just like the way that he carries himself, it's totally like written for the Snoop Dogg individual. But I love Snoop Dogg. He's a great character. So, but yeah, Day Shift. I felt like I was maybe a little bit more than lukewarm on my excitement of this one. Netflix has like not the best track record for movies for me. I feel like there'll be projects that they look really exciting, they have a really stacked cast, and then they just really fall flat. Again, you shout out After Nine. We were talking about Red Notice on there, where it's like you got someone like The Rock, Gal Gadot, Ryan Reynolds, and it's just the fact that like so many people just says it's just like you totally like skip this one. It's just like they don't really bring it. They're just kind of there for a paycheck. I feel like I get that feeling a lot of the time. Go check out it in our archives. Travis and I recorded our review Triple Frontier. That's that super stacked one. You got Pedro Pascal, Oscar Isaac, Ben Affleck. Like the cast is stacked, but such a forgettable movie. Like it's just so crazy that it has that effect. And I felt like I just kind of put the Netflix movies in a box for that reason. Like this one again has a very iconic actor, Oscar winner Jamie Foxx. I love Jamie Foxx and everything is in, but even that I was still like hesitant. Like, okay, I'll watch it. We'll see if it actually delivers. I really love Dave Franco too. Everything that he's in, I quite enjoy. Maybe not love all the projects that he's in, but I think he's very, very solid. He's a certain type of humor that just really, really works for me, especially when they make him play that type of role. I'm thinking like 21 Jump Street. He's a similar type of character in this, even more so in like the nerdy desk jockey direction, and it all worked for me. And yeah, like that, like I really, really enjoyed this movie actually, and maybe I have to like pull back on my reservations on Netflix movies now after this one. It's like, okay, I really think a big part of it is actually Jamie Foxx, like just being such a phenomenal lead. I think he's such a phenomenal actor. I mean, yeah, Oscar winner, like it goes without saying. He's got the accolades to show it. But he is just so charismatic, whether he's playing like the dad role, the badass the badass vampire, like Slayer role. Like he's just so phenomenal in everything he's in. And I think, yeah, the comedic beats, him like portraying like the maybe not like a perfect dad, like he has a lot of sacrifices to make, so he can't always be there for his daughter, but the moments with his daughter, it's like really believable that he is a dad, like really putting his daughter first a lot of the time, or trying to put his daughter first and trying to be the better dad. And I think he nails that so well on top of everything else. So huge credit to Jamie Foxx for that. And that's something where like if you have a lesser actor in that role, it probably would have brought down the movie quite a bit, but because he's so solid, I think it raises it a lot for me. All of the action sequences were so phenomenal. Again, S-Bubs on our After Nine was talking about just some of like the behind the scenes things on like how they shot certain things that I wasn't aware of, and it totally makes sense that maybe let me rephrase that. The fact that they like stayed away from CGI and tried to do everything practical, it really shines through in those action sequences where this is just a really fun watchable movie for those sequences. I remember there's behind the scenes images I've seen of like when they are shooting like the vampires like jumping at them, and then it's just like a rope like pulling on like some of the actors, where it's like, holy shit, like that is an actual person that went through that, not just like a CGI animated thing. So all of the decisions to go on that route to do things practically, I think really, really helps this movie. And it just makes it very, very enjoyable to watch. So yeah, I really, really, really like this movie. The comedy really worked for me. Shay and I were laughing like out loud a lot in this movie. Not all the humor hit for me, but I can definitely say a majority of it did hit. And it was just a really, really fun take on the vampire genre. I think this was a original enough idea for, we've seen so many vampire slaying movies and same sort of concept before, but this is like a fun take on it. And yeah, it was sweet. I'm already like a big fan of vampire things. You know, you and I, big renowned underworld fans. So like definitely, I already had a lot of love for the vampire genre, but I still think this really was an original idea on that genre that I've already seen done so many times. So yeah, without further ado, that's all my, I think, overall thought. Oh, the score too, I think was so fun, and like the soundtrack, they had a lot of like copyrighted like classic music in there, and it all worked for me. It was very fitting for the just the story in general, and just I think for the tone of the movie, like it was very fitting to have that style of music in certain scenes. Not sure if you do you agree? Yeah, sounds like you
Mhm.
agree with me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all that was really fun. So
Cool.
without further ado, I think we'll take our first ad break here and then jump into our spoiler conversation. So we'll be right back. And we're back. Taylor Field. While I write down this ad time, where do you want to go?
Oh man, yeah. I always try not to go to like the start or the end because it's so cliche for us. But you know
What's
what?
so bad about that? I'm the one that always goes there, and I feel like Dylan Travis really like, oh, this is such like a maybe it's because it's so like formulaic. It's like, well, every time we do a review, we're gonna start at the beginning and
Probably.
go through. But like sometimes it's really fitting. I also feel like in a movie like this, it is fitting as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? This part's relatively early on. We get to see like our main like vampire villain, the female real estate agent, and it's funny how I feel like they've made vampires more weaker to sun because they can kind of just sit in the sun for a while and it just kind of like crisps them, and they can walk around in the daytime with an umbrella now. They've really not sugarcoated it, but painted them out to be a little bit more tolerant, even now with wearing sunscreen for the most part, so they can actually handle themselves in the sun for a period of time. And don't get me wrong, I think that's fun and creative, and I really don't have much of a problem with it, but I do think that it's a nice change of pace from our standard vampire. Like as soon as they're in the sun, they just like they die, they incinerate, all that kind of stuff. But I think she was cool. I thought her storyline too, with how we see the connection between this older vampire that is killed by Jamie Foxx at the beginning, because we learn, hey, his character is a vampire hunter. He's kicked out of the union and he's collecting teeth to sell in the black market part because he's trying to get money, and he wants to keep his family here because his family's gonna be moving to Florida. So he's got the incentive and he's got the just and the cause to why he needs to amp this up. And I like how he goes to the union. I like how when Snoop comes into play at the beginning. Like he just door opens up of his big rig truck and you don't even see his foot come out the door. It's just smoke just coming out. It's so great. What did you think of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, and this is the thing we were talking about in the non-spoiler, where like I feel like Snoop always plays this type of character, but because I just love Snoop so much, like I never get bored of it. Like I'm expecting him to play this type of character. So yeah, when he pulls up big truck and they're like talking about this character, we haven't seen him yet, but his name's like Big J.
Yeah.
It's in like another term for like a big joint, which is like just a marijuana thing. It's just like, oh, of course, is the character, and then yeah, puts his boot out, just smoke comes out everywhere. It's like. This is fantastic, and I think it's another thing too that the character isn't overused. Like it's not like he is like, yeah, he's not a main character by any means, but like I think the usages of him are very selective in a sense that it doesn't feel like they're overbeating that joke like of using him in that role, because yeah. So I think all of the Snoop stuff really worked for me, and you're talking about like the um like it opened with that awesome like fight sequence, but even just slightly after that we get like the big threat revealed.
Yeah.
And I really liked that. I feel like I also just liked what the threat of the overall movie was. I felt like it wasn't too like, okay, vampires are taking over the world. I liked how it was kind of small enough of just being like they have these criminals that are also just happen to be vampires, and they're kind of like running the underground, like yeah, like the world of crime, and like it doesn't. I don't know. They talk about some of like the crime that like are they selling drugs or something
Well,
like
their
that?
plan was that they were to, well, that crime thing that they hinted at. I think it was just like, yeah, crime family movement and aspirations. The goal was that they were going to take the world over, right? Because she was buying
Oh,
up all
was
the
it?
housing
Okay.
and she was funneling in all these different vampires, and that's when Dave Franco's
Mm,
character was like, oh, they're all from different areas that would never hang out together because feeding and stuff. But her plan was to put them all in the housing, and then they would all be immersed in society, and then they all just like spread and take over, right?
okay, right. So then I take it back. It is a world-ending trade. I think maybe that helped a lot is that it's not like this is they've been making all these plans and this is the end game where like they all are revealed and like this is their play to take over the world. It's just like we're kind of see it in the foundation steps, or maybe like if it's stage one, maybe we're in stage two before we get to like stage five, or like something like that. So I think that was really fun because it made the overall threat more so on like Jamie Foxx trying to like save his family, of like, okay, he's got to make money for this, and it was simple enough of okay, they have these fangs that's what he trades in for money. I really like him going to the pawn shop for Troy, I think was his name, and like they have the like the fang exchange rate. I love that, like just that idea of like, oh, how much are fangs worth right now, and then like they inspect it and they can age it out for how much money it is. All of that stuff was really really fun for me. So I think just the overall idea of okay, this is the world that we're in, this is the playing field, this is how it works. I was completely sold on that, and I'm like, hell yeah, like this, let's go, this is fun. I liked how he had to have like a cover days, like he's just a pool boy, like that's what he does. But then when he gets there and he's clearly a man on a mission hunting vampires, it's fun. It's fun that we're living in this world that vampires are around, but not everybody knows it. Like I think that's a really fun idea too. So
Yeah, and with his family, I like that there wasn't like another guy in the picture. I like that it's just his
yeah,
former
me
wife
too.
and daughter. I didn't feel like they do that in a lot of different shows and movies. I didn't feel like I needed it. I just like the reason that he couldn't work it out was vampires, and they allude to that at near the end, like. When he has to fess up, like our marriage ended because of vampires. She's just freaking like, what?
Yeah.
All those times you were away, like late nights. She probably thought he was
Yeah.
cheating.
I That's also like a kind of a trope too, right? When you have like the dad that's trying to like he's I don't know, had a bad string of luck or maybe just bad decisions to put him in this case where his wife just had enough and like separated from him, and then they have the daughter who clearly loves both of them, or like clearly loves the dad too, but he just his decisions are making it so he can't really be in the family right now. And so many times it is you get that like douchebag, you get that douchebag stepdad or something, right? Like I've just seen that so many times in movies of like that similar situation happening, and it did make it feel a little fresher that it's like no, like you make these steps and like you probably could get back together. And the wife, I forget her name, she brings up multiple times, Jocelyn. Yeah, Joss. He keeps calling her Joss. So Jocelyn, that's her name. Luckily, I had IMDb up. But like so many times, she states that like she does still love him. I think that's later on in the film when she says that like I can't be with the man I love because of vampires or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. I
Mm-hmm.
apologize,
Mm-hmm.
but you know what I mean. I did like that dynamic because it was like he does make these steps and then they can kind of be together, and the wife is clearly, or the ex-wife is clearly torn about like moving away to Florida. Like it seems like she has made these attempts, but it's just the living situation. Just it makes more sense to go away to Florida, like live closer to the mom, probably to just help support the daughter, because clearly Jamie Foxx hasn't been doing the best at that. He's not being able to pick her up or not being able to pay for school or something like that, right? So I think that family dynamic worked because yeah, we've seen it done before, but I still think it was like realistic enough to really feel like okay, they are trying to be together. It's not like the wife is completely done with her and yeah, has this like douchebag, probably like a super white suburban like stepdad. Like I've seen that done a
Mm-hmm.
lot before, and he's just saying like the super catchy things, and by the end of the movie maybe he dies to a vampire, then the wife
Oh
comes back
yeah.
to Jamie Foxx.
Oh
Like
yeah.
we've just seen that done a lot, so that this was, I don't know, it was fresh in my eyes compared to what could have been done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hell yeah. So yeah, we're talking about some of our characters already. Let's just talk about Jamie Foxx, our lead. Bud was his name. Funny enough, the story that you told me on After Nine, I feel like that's another one too. Because
But
it's like, hey,
yeah.
Bud, what? I didn't touch you. Right? I didn't hit you. That's probably better than touch you. So yeah, we have this pool boy worker. Badass vampire hunter too, like very capable of just dismantling. Like he basically 1v2s like at the beginning of this movie. I know the other one doesn't really show up till the end of the battle and completely gets decapitated by his
Mm-hmm.
works every time trick with the tripwire there. But yeah, what did you think overall about Jamie Foxx? Like, are you a big Jamie Foxx fan like I am?
Motherfucker
Yeah,
Jones.
motherfucker Jones, exactly. Or are you talking
Yeah,
about that movie today?
I am. I like anything he's in. I definitely know like I'm in for a good time. I enjoy it, and yeah, this his performance in this was great. I loved seeing him just as a badass vampire slayer. Like he goes into the house at the beginning. He's setting up like his area, his traps, stuff like that. I really enjoyed that, and he goes toe to toe with that almost elder vampire. And yeah, she was super scary, but The fighting he was doing was great. Like he it's just it freaks me out when they're like holding on to each other. Like you don't want to get bit because it's game over for you. But the way they're doing the flips and he's getting thrown through walls and everything like that, and he's just like shooting her and stuff. Like he shoots her right in that gut area, and you can see through it, and she's like puking all over him. Then just his reactions are great to all that. And after he like axes them both, he's like looking through the closet and finds like some like pajama gown, nightgown thing, and puts it on. But yeah, he just does a great job, like you mentioned, being a father, kind of like humor character, like with his daughter. uh it's- Even with like her slapping the sticker of her face on his steering wheel handle, I like that too. And he's just so good. He doesn't disappoint. And his dynamic that he has with every other character in this movie, I feel goes very, very smoothly and well because he's so good at bouncing off what other people are delivering, especially Dave
Yeah.
Franco. So, and again, the scene with Troy, um, just the way they were haggling and oh, those what were the shoes called?
Jordans.
Jordans, yeah, those
Yeah.
Jordans. Like, yeah, it was so good.
Yeah, I adding on to what you said about like his feeding off the other characters or just his chemistry on screen with the other characters. I think that just really goes to show the quality of an actor of what Jamie Foxx is. Like he's able to bounce off everybody, whether it's Troy, whether it's what is Dave Franco's character even called? Seth, that's his name. Whether it's him, Seth, even like the nurse who ends up revealing that she's a vampire as well. Like he's just very charismatic, and I think it's just Jamie Foxx being a stellar actor because yeah, like all the moments with his daughter was just very believable, and he's just like it's funny we were talking about we were bringing up Red Notice earlier today about how like in that movie it seems like nobody has chemistry together, like on screen chemistry. It's just they're just there for a paycheck. Like Jamie Foxx really brings it in this movie. And yeah, he's like whether it's those other like Russian vampires that they meet later on, like he's just it really made like it's really believable for the viewer, at least for myself, that he has these relationships with these characters, especially a character that gets introduced to the viewer in a certain scene, and then we're supposed to believe that they have history together. I think it is really believable. Like even him with his ex-wife in the movie, like it is believable that they were a relationship, just the way that they talk to each other,
Hmm.
and like really like there is still love there, but they're just in a rocky situation. Um, Jamie Foxx just brings it throughout the whole movie, and yeah, those action sequences, he's such a badass with that shotgun. I love too, and like multiple times in the movie, he'll like with the shotgun, he'll pump it, and then like he'll catch the shell and just like
Hmm.
pocket it. Like it's just this is an action star right here. Like I like following this guy on screen just killing vampires. So such a great lead, and as I mentioned in the non spoilers, I think he really boosted this movie up for me. 'Cause yeah, I love Jamie Foxx. He's so great in everything I see him in.
Yeah.
Transitioning. Oh yeah, I forgot to shout out too. I love his shirts throughout this movie. He kept having like
Oh
really
yeah.
vacation attire button ups. Phenomenal. I loved it. Like how colorful they were too.
Hmm.
Uh, do you want to just move on to the next character, or do you want to
Yeah. Were
talk
you
about
thinking
like?
Dave?
Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
Dave too.
For
Uh,
sure.
yeah. What do you think about him in this movie? He plays kind of like a behind the desk. I mean, like my name implies, the desk jockey. It's essentially what he is. Like, he's very, I'd say, good for that job. Like, he's very by the book. He is not a badass by any means. He's he's very safe in his little circle. Very by the book. Everything's got to be done. And again, just like kind of that nerdy demeanor. I think he plays that so good, and I brought up 21 Jump Street. He plays that to a certain extent in that movie.
Hmm.
But yeah, I love Dave Franco. His humor really works for me. But what do you think of Seth?
I'm a huge sucker for characters in films that aren't field agents, and I defer to Van Helsing when
Oh
Faramir,
yeah, totally
the
Faramir.
fire
Yeah,
talk guy, he had to go out. He's like, I'm not a field man. He had to go out into the field. I love that setup so much because you can get so many funny moments, and just like with Dave Franco's character Seth, like first job going out there, he just starts peeing his pants. And Jamie Foxx's character, like Bud, is like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, it was really humorous, and he's trying so hard to do good. And even then, when they storm that not mansion, that house, and they find a hive, and he's got the thing on him for most of the time, and again he pees his pants again, and like the Russians are like, what the like.
The first peeing of the pants, like, it was okay, that's funny, but that one actually had Shay and I like laughing out loud, hysterical, especially because he's just trying to shoot and it's just not working.
Yeah, exactly.
The piss is just coming out, and just Dave Franco looking so terrified in that moment, and like it is a terrifying image, especially just like the contortionist abilities that these vampires were showcasing. Like it was so chaotic. There's people fighting in other rooms, and then you just have this character not being able to shoot, and he's just like, oh fuck, he starts pissing his pants. It's so great.
Oh, he does such a good job at creating those moments when he becomes a vampire, and he's like he's just so like loosey goosey, and yeah, he gets his head cut off, and he's not all there. He puts his head back on, he's holding it, and that I'm gonna like flash through a few scenes here. Like he puts his head back on, the female lady like helps him out, gives him blood. He's like, oh, I'm a Presbyterian or whatever, and he starts like really enjoying it. But the part that really got me was when right after that, when he was about to they were about to go to where his family was, retrieve them, and Bud is like, oh, Seth, like you're just a little hopped up on something right now, you need to stay put, can't come with. He's like, no, like I want to do this, like I'm ready, got so much energy, let's do this. And he starts listing out the reasons, like they tortured me, they turned me into a vampire, they cut my head off. Well, no, you cut my head off. It just got me so good.
Yeah, all those moments when he's like almost like flashing into like a vampire mode sequence, and then he like catch himself, all that humor really worked for me. I loved it because that was just the whole situation with him turning into a vampire. I really wasn't expecting, because it happens off screen, right? Like they just take him away, and the next thing you see him, he's all bloody, he's kind of like freaking out. And to take a character that's so not a field agent, and then like just put him in this, like he is now a feral predator, like he is the stalker of the night, like the ideal, like, yeah, nighttime predator. That was fun to see. I just love when he would keep kind of catching himself, like yeah. And then when Jamie Foxx just totally cuts his head off, and he's just like, what the fuck was that, man? He's like, you charged me. And he's like, oh yeah, okay. And then there's like another moment too, I think it's when he is like holding his head, and he kind of like he just like he like instinctively like moves forward towards Jamie Foxx, and then they like kind of flinch. He's like, oh yeah, sorry, just catch myself there. Like it's those moments were really fun, and yeah, we get to see him just absolutely pop off, eat some. Are they fighting humans at the end?
Those
Not
are
really.
humans, yeah, because they were bleeding blood.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So he messes them up pretty good.
That scene too, when Snoop shows up there, like, we'll talk about that scene later on. But like when Snoop is there, like Dave Franco's character, he reaches out and like touches Big J's shoulder, and like Jamie Foxx comes in and like stops that moment. I don't even know if it's from a sense like you don't touch Big J, or it's just like you're a vampire, you don't touch him. He's like the prized possession. So
yeah, 100%. That's fantastic. Another thing too with Dave Frank. I mean, yeah, just I already talked about like the humor around him too, but I liked how, because he is just so by the book, like on their first mission. It's funny. It kind of reminds me of like the Lighthouse. How he's like, he doesn't tell him that he's like dogging him these like he's auditing him, and it's like, oh, he did this wrong, not safe. Like I like how it's kind of like he finds that out, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing, man? And like even when they come across to, we totally are jumping around, but this is what's gonna happen for a Taylor Kirklin review. But that's why you're here. Like when they go to Troy's pawn shop, and then it's just chaos. He's like, no, we got to report this right now. And then he's like, you're insane for not reporting this right now. Like, we got to do it. He's like, I'm not telling you not to report it. Just don't do it right in this moment. Like, I got to get money. And then he kind of explains his own situation with his kids and everything. And Seth, it just shows that, like, oh, like that is a shitty situation. And then he's kind of, he doesn't really say it, but like it's kind of shown that he's kind of torn of like sticking by the book, doing his own job, but also he doesn't want to just screw this guy over with his family. Just makes it like a little bit more of a human moment, which isn't necessary. Well, let me take that back. I think it's necessary, but I think I've seen it before. They just don't even tackle that, so it's like a missed opportunity, and it just made the characters a lot more, just a lot more human, and like really just showing a vulnerability in themselves, because like Jamie Foxx reveals something to himself where he's just portraying this badass vampire up until that point. It's not like, no, I need to get this money to just like support my family and get them back to, like, my daughter's gonna leave, like literally go to the other side of the country, because they're in LA, and then they would be going to Florida, complete East Coast. And it just puts Dave Franco's character in a situation. It's like, do I stick by the book, or do I not do this? And I like that little layer was shown there, because and I think from that point on they do become a little bit more friendly with each other. Like Seth tries to not just totally like write him up, like he's not looking for a reason to write him up, and I think that's how his mission was going when he first joins up with him. It's like, hey, I gotta just write this guy out so I can go back to my desk job. And even the other guy, like the head honcho, I completely forget his name now, but Seeger, that's his name. Thank you, IMDb. Got it up on my other monitor. Like he just tells him, he's like, yeah, it's like, as soon as you write him up, like you can just come back to your desk job. You'll get fucking what's her name, the yogurt stealer.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, you'll have her desk, like all these things. But it's not so easy from that point of view, especially when he is revealed that, oh, this guy isn't just a piece of shit. Like, he's actually doing this for his family. So I know I've talked a lot about that motivation, but I that was a big takeaway for me. Again, it's a small moment, but it just makes the characters. It makes it so I'm rooting for the characters a lot more, I think, after having a moment like that.
Definitely. Yeah. With Dave Franco and that whole dynamic of just, you make a good point, him getting back to that desk job, because when you're at a desk and you're sitting there for long hours, you want to make sure you are, shaved up and cushioned and feeling light. And what a coincidence, today's episode is sponsored by our friends at Manscaped, the leaders in below the waist grooming. It's back to school time, and we want to make sure you pack the essentials to have the best year yet. The Manscaped 4th Generation Performance Package is just that. Be ready for whatever is in your daily schedule this year. It's the perfect package for your package and includes the brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Fellas, go for the valedictorian of ball trimming and join the 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com with the code GVPOD. Now, I know I've had some issues while trimming my, in the year starting out when you're not super young lad, but you're young. You're like, you got to make sure you're in the game. You got to make sure you're presentable, feeling good. And sometimes when you don't have access to razors, you got to use scissors. And, it's a dangerous game to be snipping around down there.
Been there, man. So. Yeah, 100%. Especially like, you're so many emotions as like a young lad. When you're like the potential of some female action or any, I'm not necessarily limiting to female, just another person action, in the intimate areas, and you're like, well, fuck, I gotta look good down there. It can't just be like Scary Movie 1. Boof, big hedge. You need those hedge trimmers coming in. So yeah, going in there with the scissors, and it's like, to quote the Grinch, Jim Carrey's Grinch, you gotta look at the hack job. That's probably what it looked like down there, and like, especially just like all cut up and stuff. Sometimes it's pulling the hair, and it's just nasty. Even I remember the first time I got an electric razor. It's a big improvement from just going at it with scissors, but fuck, going in there, you definitely like get some nicks, and because you don't have like the nice LED, you don't see all the crevices, so you think you did a good job. It's definitely maybe got some cuts down there, but you look and there's just patches you miss and stuff like that. Definitely not the case with the Lawnmower 4.0, man. I could go camping in the woods and just come out there looking like I got a Brazilian, all nice and shaved, because I got my LED. You got the waterproof trimmer. It could be raining out there in the woods, and it doesn't even matter because I'm completely secured. Yes, there. So what an opposite, like, especially just because I've been on both sides of the spectrum. Before my Lawnmower 4.0 days, I was the Grinch. I was the hack job going down there. But you got to do it, because like the other situation is you just got a big prickly bush, and nobody wants to deal with that. Especially like potentially first time intimate time with another person. Like, first impressions are very important, especially in those nether regions.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you said it. The 4th generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. Thanks to their advanced skin safe technology, it also allows you to shave your pencil down and customize your trim through additional guard lengths with sizes 1 to 4. Lawnmower 4.0 also has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multi-function off, and on Switch can engage a travel lock and gives you the ability to turn the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when you need a more precise shave. Did I mention the trimmer is waterproof too? I mean, you shouted all that stuff out, Kirkland. It's fantastic. You know, really needed in this movie was Seeker. I mean, he should have. I mean, definitely. I'm not saying his package was huge, but his hair looked like it could use a little touch up.
Absolutely. And another thing talking about this character's hair, he's a pretty dirty looking dude. I feel like he doesn't have access to like shampoos or anything like that. And luckily Manscaped does it all. They got the shampoo and conditioner mix up. That's always nice I feel like that's a dude thing for sure too. It's just, because sometimes we just lays out. We want everything nice and easy. So when you get the combo package right there, the body wash smelling absolutely fantastic, ready for action. And just, I always mention it when we're doing these Manscaped ads, but just like the sleekness of their bottles, like it's not cheap by any means. Like you really feel like it is the high quality stuff. So I think Seeger could have used a lot of the Manscaped products, I'm sure, because he wasn't looking like the cleanest dude by any means, and I feel like I could just smell him through the TV screen. So I feel bad for Jamie Foxx and the other cast.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not to rail on the actor, I'm sure he smells fine, but
yeah. So to get 20% off plus free shipping with the code GVPOD at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code GVPOD at manscaped.com. This year, graduate with a degree in clean balls from Manscaped.
Beautiful. Very well done, Taylor. And because I'm just writing down this ad break, sorry everyone, we are back. So yeah, we talked about Bud, we talked about Seth. Maybe we'll take a break from the characters here, and I just want to bring up a big thing that I mentioned in the non-spoilers, and I think something that made this movie so fun was the action. I think the action looked so good, and this was an action-packed movie, and I don't think it fell flat by any means in that regard. I think all of the moments with the zombies, or not the zombies, the vampires, they kind of seem like zombies, especially the ones that could still move without the heads. But alas, they're vampires, and I think all those action sequences were just so good. And I mentioned the effort that they went through of making everything as practical as possible was just such a great decision, because I think not only does it make it less jarring for a viewer if you're seeing a lot of like the CGI elements, it also just it doesn't make it as timeless. Now I'm not saying this movie's gonna go out and be like the most memorable like movie of our generation by any means, but I just think the fact that because they try to do everything as practical as possible, 20 years in the future I still think this will look good, whereas like if you have a very CGI like heavy thing, technology is great these days, but I still think in like 20 years it is going to be really noticeable. Like we're just seeing that already with like early 2000s stuff. Not the Lord of the Rings. That's what makes that so fantastic. Go check out the retro for those. So I think it was just so fantastic, and I love to watch a movie like this and then hearing stories about like how they achieve certain things. Like I mentioned when a vampire jumps at someone, and then I remember seeing like the behind the scenes things of like they're literally on a rope, so someone just like totally yanks on them, and it's just like they fall flat. It looks really good. Again, shouts out to S-Bubs. He revealed to us how like they used like actual contortionists and then like rewound the footage to make it look like they're actually like throwing them on the ground. All of those little decisions are just so so fantastic. And I think visually it just made it so epic. Like I wasn't at the edge of my seat by any means, but still, like I was really engaged with the action, where I feel like sometimes if action is very messy and like you can't really fully discern things that are going on, something like I would bring up is like the Morbius, where it's just like the final scene of Morbius. It's just a lot of like people like moving together where you can't even really tell what's going on. I think this doesn't have that by any means. So the action was fantastic.
I agree. The way they did a lot of the practicality was just great. I think that's definitely a thing these days where you have all the CGI stuff that's just a little too far-fetched, and it is noticeable now, especially like if you're watching it on your 4K QLED TV. You can see these things. They stand out if they're not executed well. So I applaud the practicality. That's something for me with Jurassic Park or Jurassic World these days. Like, it's too much CGI. They need to get back to basics with the animatronics and everything. And having the contortionists do that stuff is fantastic. Even a scene where Snoop has his like ultraviolet bomb that he detonates. There's so I could think of so many sequences in previous like vampire flicks where they would show the bomb go off and the CGI like wave of the UV and then like the CGI skulls as they're like fading and like
I'm thinking
we
of
don't
Miss
need
Marvel
that.
when they turn into skeletons. I'm picturing that's what I
Exactly.
look like.
Exactly the same thing. And we don't need that. It just if you're going to use CGI, play it in your ball court. Don't just try and go big. In this case,
Yeah.
they detonated it around the corner. You just see a faint glow down the hall, which was perfect. We didn't need to have anything over the top. And I can't really think of anything super CGI like in this movie. I mean, it was really all practicality, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think like maybe when they're in like their zombie forms, that's where they're like like balancing
Yeah.
practical makeup with like CGI. But I think because it's hidden so well, it's not really noticeable by any means. And I think also just the fact that this ratio won't be correct, but let's just say like 90% of it is practical and then like 10% CGI. Like it's just a really healthy balance there.
Yeah.
So yeah, like visually and even just like certain like scenes or let's just say like certain shots of just like certain characters and the way that like the cinematography um like went about it like visually this movie looked really good. All the shots that they chose I think looked really good, and it felt like a big movie budget film. It didn't feel like it was like a straight to streaming movie. I mean, I don't even want to say that because now that streaming
We
companies,
got Prey. Like,
yeah, like well, that's what I was gonna say. Like now that streaming is just such a different ballgame than what it used to be. Like they have so much money like to do these sort of things. There's a lot of like maybe yeah like Netflix original TV series that actually have that big, but I mean Stranger Things would be a great example, right? But like again, Stranger Things is kind of an anomaly. It's something like a Game of Thrones budget type show, like where it looks phenomenal. I think
it's not like a straight to DVD equivalent, basically.
that's what
'Cause
yeah
that's very low.
that's what I was trying to say. Thanks for throwing me a life raft there. I was fumbling on the execution, but yeah, no, this movie just looked visually just awesome throughout. Like whether it's the action, whether it's just the cinematography shots, it was great.
Yeah.
And also just like the clothing design and like the designs of like the vampires in general, like because they are so contortiony, that's not really a vampire style that I've seen before. It made it unique to this film, so it's not just like, oh, you got the classic Nosferatu look or something. You know, you got the fangs, which you kind of need for vampires, but the fact that they were mostly just vampires in disguise as humans, like they're like the main antagonist, like she had that businesswoman like attire, and I really liked her outfits, like when when she goes to basically fuck up Troy, but to interrogate to find out who Bud is, like I really like just she had like a full orange like business suit. It looked so awesome, and I just really maybe I've just really grown to like just clothing designs and stuff, but I just really appreciated the decisions of certain people's outfits. And one big one too is like oh my gosh, the guacamole suit. That's what it was called, right? I forget what color it was Dave Franco is wearing, but they just like shit
Oh,
on his suit, and
yeah.
he's like, it accents my skin tone, and just like all of the clothing design really worked for me. But I liked when they was still able to use it in a comedic manner for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think what else we got here. Um,
I got a couple notes
oh
we can
yeah.
go through. So I already mentioned like the Fang index, like that little like again, it's a very small thing, but I just like that idea of that there's like this exchange rate for like, oh, if we have a lot of vampires, obviously like the trading value is a lot less for these lesser ones. I liked how they're explaining that like, oh, I was 90 years old, like it was so close to being an elder and it would have been worth so much more money. I just like that because it makes this world a lot more fleshed out, and like it's not like they just, well, they did come up with this concept for the movie, but it didn't feel like just don't really worry about explaining like what the exchange rate is, or like what the Fang index exchange is. Like the fact that they mention it, it just fleshes out the world a lot more, and it's just good world building. So I liked all of that stuff. Another thing, just I really really love too in movies. I feel like I'm just such a sucker. It definitely comes from like spy movies and stuff, but is like secret rooms. So when they go to Union, and then like Snoop Dogg's there, gives them like, oh yeah, no, we're like the go ahead to go see the Union. Goes in the elevator and like the fake door opens up. I'm such a sucker for secret rooms and gadgets and all that spy stuff. So that was really really fun. I like too how when they entered the room, you hear something on like the intercom, and it's like JJ Perry to the front desk. That's actually the director, and
Oh,
I feel
really?
like I'm not even like a big JJ Perry fan. I haven't pulled up his discography, but like before the movie started, I was like, oh, who's the director? Okay, that's cool. And then I just heard it. I'm like, oh, look at that little Easter egg there. And I
Very
feel like
cool.
I definitely wouldn't have noticed that if I didn't check the director firsthand. But still, that was a fun little thing. And yeah, what did you think about? I guess we can tie that into like Union in general. Like that was a kind of a fun concept too. Hey, how there's like a dedicated company that kind of specializes in this, and they pay off these uh yeah, just vampire hunters. Like I thought that was a really fun idea too. How you have like a dedicated police force sort of thing, and like they're split off into day shifts and night shifts, and I loved all of those details revolving them.
Yeah, it was like an RIPD kind of vibe. Like
100%. Yeah.
but I love that. I loved it so much. You're totally right with the way the board was working, that certain teeth go for certain rates, and it's just this whole global market essentially. And the union has better payment rates, I guess, because if you get in on the union as a vampire hunter than selling your teeth to a pawnbroker. But
Yeah.
I liked it. You go in there. I'm with you. The secret agent like doorway to get in. There's people playing poker in there, and it's just got the huge board of showing all like the rates and stuff like that, and like locations, and yeah, the day shift, night shift kind of concept. I thought it was fantastic. It was really really cool. I would love to see more in this kind of world because, again, you're right. We didn't need a huge explanation. We didn't need that in regards to the rates board, and we didn't need it here, but it was enough that it left me wanting more. And I specifically mean when Dave Franco gives us a rundown, even like, hey, there's different vampires from different groups and all these different components that make up these different like sectors of vampires that wouldn't really associate with each other. Different, they have such a rich history that I feel like they piece together, and you get to see that in the union a little bit, even when Dave Franco's inspecting the teeth. And I would love to know more about that. And I think that even if you do a sequel, call it like the Union or something, I don't know, focus on that world, but different agents or something like
Night
that.
shift. That's an easy
Night
sequel
shift.
right there.
Oh yeah,
Because
absolutely.
then it's like ramp. Because the night shift is clearly a lot more dangerous because like a lot more vampires are active at the night. So that's a perfect sequel's name right there. And I like what you said about like wanting a sequel and all the steps of them fleshing out the world and world building. It really leans into that camp. Like, okay, we have this universe that they set up, and I like it. So like, no reason to not have more of it, right? Especially if you bring back the cast. Jamie Foxx was so great in it. Even like seeing in some of those behind the scenes like interviews of them explaining the practicality, like he seemed like he was really in on it and liking it. So I would love to have a sequel. Like, I've already mentioned that I love this movie, so definitely makes sense why I would be thinking that. But also just all the world building things they had on it, and it's not like they ended all the vampires. Like there is still a vampire threat out there in the world. So, and who knows? Like we didn't like we they explained that they came from down south in like Mexico and stuff. Like we didn't really like what is it like? What's the action? Like what's the vampire scene look like in Mexico? Right? If they're
Yeah.
coming from there, it's probably insane. That's probably like the heart of the swarm. So all of that stuff I think could really lean into, especially if this does well like numbers wise.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I loved it. I've been telling a lot of people to watch it, so I think it'll do good word of mouth. I don't think I've talked to anyone that has seen it yet that really despises it or anything. Like it's good or better, from the word of mouth ratings. I got this one image I wanted to bring up too because it just showcases some of the things we were talking about. Like we got the Fang exchange rate there, and then you can't really see it in this image or in detail, but the other screen too, it's called like the Fang Fives, and it like helps Troy kind of like how to like what's the term for when you're inspecting something and getting the value? Appraise it.
Yes.
That's what it is. So like that's kind of his reference for appraisal. And again, that's just It's so fun. I love all those details of like, okay, this is what you're looking for to see what a fang is worth. They didn't need to have that image up there. Like obviously they went through the effort of creating that for detail. And for me at least, it didn't go unnoticed. Like all of those little things I really, really appreciate when movies go that route. So yeah, I wanted to bring up that image. Sorry if you're still looking at it there,
No, I
but
was just looking at the prices. Like
oh
juveniles are
yeah.
like just dropping in price. They had Souther and they had Spider. So
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So all of those little attention to details really really work for me. They go a long way for me. Especially if you like now that we've done so many like movie reviews and stuff, I've really grown to look out for those sort of things. So huge credit for them for doing that. Um, Let me pull up my notes. Do you have any like big main talking points to go to?
the only other thing was just more in regards to Snoop, just how he made his entrance at the end. He showed up and how he got bit too. And is he a vampire now? I would think so.
I would think so, because in my entire existence of coming across vampire culture, I feel like when you get bit, that's kind of what is implied. Now he like lost a huge chunk of his neck in that
Oh
bite.
yeah.
That was a bite and rip, not just like a little fang puncture. You know, like that was no Twilight bite. That was a full on underworld bite. um, I could honestly completely see like if they do a sequel, I think they're bringing Snoop back. I think they're bringing all these big players back. And Snoop maybe being like the Dave Franco route where he is a vampire, but he's still like a good guy, because Snoop is like The Rock. He's not just like, I don't even know what his real name is. He's just, maybe his real name is Snoop now, but like that's that's a good question. Is that his main name? Just Snoop Dogg?
I don't know what his real name is.
I know, right? So
I
it's
don't
like
know.
it's like The Rock, where you just see him as this character. Every project that The Rock's in, you just see The Rock, and Snoop Dogg has that same thing. So if he came back into the movie, like he's not playing a vicious vampire that's like the main enemy. I don't think. I think he's still just in this Gandalf route where he's just like, you don't really know what he is, but I could definitely see him having those vampire powers, but still being the force of good.
Maybe he just smokes so much marijuana he just doesn't turn. It just stops the virus.
And I could see them working that into the plot, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I totally could, because Snoop Dogg has that effect that he's just more than just a regular actor.
You wouldn't need any more dialogue or narrative on that. Like in a sequel, he just shows up. Oh, I thought you got bit, turned to vampire. And he's like, just the weed, baby, or something like
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. Very very easy to see that. But yeah, just talking about Snoop too in general. I really liked how. I mean, I guess we kind of already talked about him, but I liked how he was brought in for like certain purpose, and then when he came back, it was like a big badass reveal moment, because we've already seen his truck. So when this truck comes in, it's like, oh yeah, the cavalry's here. He pulls out this fucking
His
minigun.
Big Bertha is what it's
Big
named.
Bertha, yeah, exactly. Just mows them all down, and he. And later on in that sequence too, like when he does the hand-to-hand combat, I know it's not Snoop doing these 360 tornado kicks.
Oh yeah,
to,
I was
like,
like, that's not a chance. That's
I know it's not actually Snoop doing these moves, but man, what a fun idea of like the character of Snoop Dogg just doing these crazy acrobatics like Bruce Lee style and just knocking head offs. That was so fun for
that was
me.
my bad leg too. That's what he says.
Exactly. It's so over the top cheesiness, but I absolutely loved all of that stuff with Snoop. And I like that he lived too. It was a good finish, and I told Shay, I'm like, even before like all those moments, I'm like, Snoop Dogg's in this. I guarantee, I would bet all my money you're getting a Snoop Dogg song at some point in this movie. And then sure enough, at the very end, he comes out of the manhole, lights up his big blunt, and then walks down, and then a Snoop Dogg plays for or Snoop Dogg song plays for the credits. It's like, oh, it's so fitting. It's so fitting. And maybe some people are like, oh, I don't like that. For me, 100% worked.
Right on.
You want to take our last ad break, and then we'll maybe go into our final notes, and then I think we're in the end game here, so we'll probably be wrapping up on our final thoughts. So we will be right back. All right, Taylor, did you have a note to bring up, or?
I have another one, yeah, from my
Okay.
last one, but just the brothers when they got introduced, it was really really funny, and I thought the whole time like they're gonna be coming off as badasses, and we're gonna see them get killed in some weird like way, and it's just gonna put them out. But no, they lived, and it was just crazy. I was loving the whole sequence of how to town they were going, even the part when the one brother like clicks the bullet out of his gun and the other brother catches it in his gun and cocks it and just shoots. Like, it was so outrageous.
And again, like, I can totally see people being like, that is so cheesy, that is so dumb. But for me, like, it's an action movie. And like there's so many moments when actually a particular scene that I wrote down in my note that you just reminded me of is that over the top shot like cheesiness where you like like throw a bullet and you just land like it lands in the gun and it just works out. It's like the chance of that happening in real life so minimal. The other one is like when you have Heather, I think is her name, like the vampire who ends up working with them at the end, helping them out. Um, like when she has her katana and she goes through, cuts people, and then the katana goes into someone and she kicks it and it flies out
Oh,
into the other
yeah.
person. That I've seen that done in so many different action sequences. That's probably impossible to do in real life, just to kick a katana and it like stabs right into another person. But I am such a sucker for when that happens. It's like, yeah, this is fucking awesome. So all of that, like, again, probably not realistic action. It all worked for me. It was all fantastic. And yeah, I was like frothing at the mouth in that scene. It's like, yeah, this is awesome. I ate up all of that stuff. But I like that you brought up the brothers because, yeah, I mean, I already mentioned the action, but in that particular sequence, how it's revealed that it's a hive, and everything just kind of ramps up in the intensity. It's so epic. You have comedy like sprinkled throughout those scenes, but just the action is so great in that. And before they even enter the house, when they like shoot gum, like he spits his gum out and he catches it, and it's just like it's just like really weird brother dynamic between the two of them.
Do everything together.
I loved all of that stuff. And just again, I think Dave Franco like. He really just sells it of like his reaction to them being ridiculous. So great. So great. So fantastic. All right. Going from my notes here. There was a particular moment. It was so weird when, and this is pretty minor, but when Jamie Foxx's daughter like calls him because she finds out that like her mom might be moving her to Florida. She's like, is this actually happening? I just found it really weird that he has like a Bitmoji photo of his daughter. I'm like, it's so bizarre. I don't have kids, but I feel like I would have just had a photo of my kid, not like an animated image. Again, super minor.
No
but
kidding. I
it was weird. Another note that I actually wrote down because of Shay, I didn't even think about it in the moment, but like this whole mission is basically just so Jamie Foxx can like save his family, right? Like keep them here. He needs to get like, what is it, $5,000 or $10,000 or something?
$5,000, yeah.
Yeah. So he needs this money, and I know he's like a good guy, not really a thief, but like if he just murdered this house full of vampires, like why not just take shit? Like they probably got some cash, some jewelry laying around, especially like the pawn shop. Maybe, I don't know, maybe because they have cameras.
All those teeth, like just grab a handful and
that's
sell them
exactly
to the Union.
That's exactly what Shay shouted out too. It's like all the teeth are there, like that's literally what they're worth. And I don't know, it's not really shown. I think if I was trying to defend it, play devil's advocate, maybe say like maybe the female vampire grabbed them all, but like why would she have, like what purpose would she have for the vampire teeth? So it didn't really make sense there. So yeah, that was maybe a bit of a plot hole there. But and yeah, like in the pawn shop specifically, because like you can see just like jewelry and like they got cash registers. Everybody's here dead. If you need $5,000, I guarantee you they got at least that there. So that was kind of a weird thing. And again, I didn't even notice it at the time, but Shay's the one that shouted it out. So good eye on her. When Big J brings our Bud to the Union to like try and get him back, like he's the one that allowed them to have this meeting between Seeger and Bud, and then he kind of accepts like, okay, I'll take him back, and then Snoop Dogg like leaves for them to talk logistics, and when he goes up to him and he's like, every breath you take, every shit you, or no, yeah, I think he says every shit you take, something, like basically quoting that song. And it's just like, I think that's when Snoop Dogg comes back and he doesn't really say anything else, but it's just like Jamie Foxx's reaction to that line, fuck, it made me laugh so hard.
Yeah.
That was so funny. I already mentioned the guacamole suit thing. That was hilarious. I really liked in that scene when Dave Franco like comes to Bud and like they're ready to work together, and they're in like Jamie Foxx's kind of like his workstation, I guess. He's got all of his origami to like signify a kill. I love, again, I'm a stickler for details on these type of things, but I like when he's just making his bullets and they're talking about like he mixes it with wood and silver. Again, all those details, you don't necessarily need it in a movie like this. You could just have a throwaway line like, oh yeah, I got wooden bullets mixed with silver. But to him actually make it, I think all those details are really, really fun. And for me, they went a long way to just my overall enjoyment. It's the same thing again to like Van Helsing when they're like showcasing like what his weapons do, all these gadgets, like just those sequences I absolutely love. It's very James Bond-esque. When he goes to Q and it's like this is your, I don't know, hacking credit card or something. Like all of those
Yeah.
details. I love all those moments. Yeah, I had Why Not Take the Rest of the Teeth. We already talked about that. Soundtrack was so awesome. There was a particular, oh yeah, the car chase scene when Jamie Foxx goes to take his daughter away from that birthday party because the vampires are coming to get her. I really liked how she was just playing like Mario Kart essentially, like on her iPad
Yeah.
with like the headphones, and she's like reacting to like what's going on. I That was a fun sequence. I really quite enjoyed that, and
Mm-hmm.
the car chase over, like it just looked pretty good, so that was fun. Um, Super tornado kick by Snoop Dogg. Taylor, were you not getting AVP vibes from the underground temple like I was? Because I
I
certainly
was.
was.
I really,
Yeah.
really was. Yeah. I
Yeah,
was
that
jiving with it.
again, it's just I feel like that's just a thing, a concept of like this underground temple right underneath the floor of like a really populated city. That's just such a fun idea to me, and
Mm-hmm.
I liked how, okay, like where are these vampires taking them, and then it's revealed that they have this like super ancient underground temple. That was just really really cool to me. I really like that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Oh, at the end, or not even at the end, when Snoop gets bit in the neck, he puts on like a blue bandana, which is like representing like the Crips, because he's like, I think that's what he was back in the day. Like, there's the Crips in the blood, so he's representing like the Crips with his blue bandana. That was again a very Snoop Dogg thing, but there you
He did
go.
his like West Side, like
Yeah,
like
totally.
flip the bird
West
kind
Side
of
for
thing.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when James Franco, I think it's at the end of the movie when he, fuck, not James Franco, Dave Franco. I'm getting the two brothers mixed up. When he's like full vampire mode, and then he's talking about like going back to work or whatever, and then he just mentions, he's like, "Should I drink Carol?" He's like, "No, right?" He's like, "Should I?" That was such a great moment because he just fucking hates Carol for drinking his yogurt. He's like, "I'm gonna fart in my yogurt, and you're gonna eat farts," and she just doesn't react. Again, I guarantee that humor did not work for everyone, but it certainly did for me. So that was the end of my notes. Do you have anything to bring up last
Just,
minute, or just
just
go into our
thinking
final ratings?
again that Carol thing. Like I wrote my name on the slip, so you'd see my name as you pull off the lid, Carol. So good.
The interaction reminded me of Travis at Target with Louise about throwing off or his Tupperware in the garbage. They just like really spiteful,
Oh
like, "Oh fuck you,
shit.
Carol," like that's totally Travis.
That's the same thing. Yeah, that's great. I don't have any more notes though. I'm ready for
No,
a final rating.
yeah. Well, there you go. You lead us off.
I honestly I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would, and I came into the gate being pretty hyped. But I'd probably give it like a 8.5 out of 10. It's not a huge, crazy game changing story, but it's definitely one I would rewatch for sure. It was something I feel like I could put on again just to have in the background for a vampire flick. It had good character moments, good development, and the amount of humor, it all worked for me. I was laughing lots, and the world again has such a attraction to it that I want to be more invested in it and see maybe what I might have missed the first time, and just kind of pick up on more of what the other vampire backstories are. Like again, the underground crime syndicate for vampires that I wanted to know more about. We know that there's a hierarchy where you have different types that are brooding against each other, and as well as familiars, even some like humans that are working for them, because we had like when
Mm-hmm.
the cement scene there was construction crew humans that were working, and clearly they work and are affiliated with the vampires. So I'd like to know
Right.
more about what this kind of spread goes on, because in other films like Underworld and Blade you get to kind of be shown these different humans and companies working for the vampires, and I love that so much. So I think that's something that I would really want to see expanded on if they continue this with a sequel. But as for this is a great movie. I definitely recommend it. You're going to get some good action sequences out of it. And Dave Franco is always a delight, especially with Jamie Foxx here. So yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I completely agree with everything that you just said there. I feel like it really introduced things that makes me wanting more for a sequel, and that's definitely not what I thought I was going to have coming into this movie. And it made me have to kind of rethink my my preconceived judgment towards Netflix movies. Like, this is definitely a great one in my eyes, and it left me wanting more because it was really really good. And if you're tuning into this episode, and you're hoping for like a nice someone's really loving it, someone's really not loving it discussion. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case here, but I mean, maybe that's just to go show the quality of the movie. It was we both really really enjoyed it, and I think majority of people will, because there's a lot of stuff in here that, I mean, if this is a genre that you're interested in, I don't think there's a lot of things wrong with it for covering like an action comedy movie. So yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I almost said 8 out of 5. 8.5 out of 10. That would be really good. That's like what, 145% or something like that. I really really enjoyed this movie, and it really surprised me just with how much I enjoyed it. The action was phenomenal, and the comedy, man, I was totally like belly laughing at certain scenes, and so yeah, 8.5 out of 10 for both of us. And thank you so much, Taylor, for joining me on this Sunday morning. I apologize, it wasn't Saturday morning, but
it's all good.
It was good. We had more backstory from S-Bubs telling us about some details on our After 9 episode. So yeah, without further ado, we did all the plugs early on, so I'm not going to reiterate that. Tune in next time, and it won't be boring.
Bye-bye.